Hello everyone, it's me, LinkingX2, back again with another draft review, this time of Live Sandbox versus T1. So T1, after their recent victory against Bro, they're right on track again to climb up the standings. So let's see how they work against this rather weaker team. But well, be sure to be not surprised here with Summit and Effort. Sandbox has some players with good talent. So let's talk over the bans here. Karma, Kalista and the Varus. So targeting Teddy twice here. And the Karma. While T1 has not really played her too much, it is a pick that has been popping off internationally and even in the LCK. So banning it out is quite fine. On the other side here, the Renekton always being banned from T1. And then the Akali and the Lucian. So obviously very strong against Summit and Fate. These two players are able to flex these champion in top lane and mid lane, which amplifies the rather high level of play these champions already have. We see the first pick Ezreal here. This is double effective because also obviously Ezreal is a very strong champion at the moment, and also picking it away from Teddy, who obviously is a very known Ezreal player, at least in solo queue at the moment. On the T1 side here we see probably Faker's Lee Sin being picked. The Diana pick here is a bit strange. Obviously Diana can be flexed into other positions, same as the Lee Sin, but usually you would expect Diana go into Cass's hands. And the thing is here, Diana against Ezreal. I mean, Ezreal usually buys bit more armor instead of magic resistance, at least with the current builds, so it's not really that great of an issue. But the thing is, obviously Ezreal is not the standard immobile AD carry that Diana can just jump to, so that's a bit of an issue. But of course Lee Sin, Diana, we have to remember these are flex picks here. They can go in all kinds of different positions. Udyr and Gnar, completely standard picks that we saw this entire year. Obviously are like standard-ish, don't really deviate too much from the norm, and they're not really all that special. They have their strengths, they have their weaknesses. We've seen a lot of that, so yeah, disregarding that. Senna here being picked up for Teddy or Carrier. 99% this is for Teddy. I think Carrier has not played a single Senna game this entire year, and that's not terrible because yeah, Teddy is one of the best Sennas in the world. So yeah, that's that. Obviously Senna also really works well with Lee Sin, and I'm not sure how Diana builds in all cases, but a more bruiser like Diana would also work really well here. Then we see Leona, Alistair being banned here. Obviously these engage supports that are very aggressive down in the bot lane and can mobility wise work well with the Ezreal would be quite painful for Senna, so banning that out. Sandbox here on the other side, they're banning out the Tahm Kench, obviously the body of the Senna we see nearly always. But this at least means that T1 now can pick a special support, which they usually don't want to do, but we might get to see a special support here for Carrier that is better than the Tahm Kench, right? They're forced to pick something good. And the Azir pick ban against Faker. I mean, it's a freebie. I think this is not something they're really scared of with their champions, but this is obviously something that Faker plays to a high degree, even though Azir is not really the meta champion at the moment. They lock in here the Jace. So Jace is a bit off theme here. Yes, with Senna he begins to outrange the Live Sandbox comp, but not really on theme with the Diana Lee Sin. Forwardness, yes, Jace has hammer form and all that stuff, but nope. So yeah, already though the Jace into Gnar, that's a good matchup for Karma here. Although Jace potentially also another flex picks, right, can go into the mid lane as well. And Narsus Hofer. Narsus has a certain strength, right, but I wouldn't really like him into these champions here. Senna not really the tank shredder, but with her slows and her W and so on, not really a champion Nasus can really do too much against. And Nasus obviously very good against like champions or like AD carries that he can W. So he can be a support in some cases. Especially, right, famously the Kalista is a huge issue, has a huge issue with Nasus. Let's pause here. We see Effort probably picking the Gragas for himself. So that's kind of a pick away from carrier potentially, because T1 here with their comp they might look to get more frontline, they might look to get a bit more engaged, right? Lisa Diana, not really the best tier 1, also first engage, right? They like to be a bit more on the follow-up side. So Gragas would have been nice here for carrier in that department. And then they also pick here the set. So set probably goes into mid lane here against whatever T1 is flexing there, right? Sin could go jungle, Diana could go mid, Jace could go top, and there are also other iterations possible for these three champions, so we have to wait and see. Also with fasting Senna, this could also be something like Lee Sin or Jace bot lane, and Lulu top or mid, right? So we have to wait and see really how this turns out. But the Lulu pick here, we have to see where she goes, because usually Lulu and Senna don't really go all that well together. Okay, as I expected, Lulu goes into the mid lane. Obviously, when was this? 2015, 2016? Quite a few years ago, Faker played a shit ton of Lulu, supporting Bang at that time. And it was really effective. I mean, that were the glory days of T1. So let's pause here. What is this? So let's pause here again. Let's talk about some different stuff here. So Faker obviously here into the set. Set a very good champion against melees, but here obviously the Lulu is not one of these. So even here with the short mid lane taken into consideration, this will be quite fine for Faker. Yes, should he get ganked, obviously the high base damage of these champions and their initiate tankiness, they can dive him rather easy. But also we have to expect Faker to play the champion quite well and use his W ultimate and other abilities, of course, well. So yeah, I think Lulu here is rather safe. It can be forced, but I don't think it will. In the top lane, standard matchup in Jace's favor. The jungle matchup here. So Udyr comes online a bit faster than the Diana. And also in terms of clear speed, obviously wins out earlier on. Diana then ramps up, and yeah, she scales way better than the Udyr in most cases. And here with the Jason top, they have a very, very, very strong 2v2, really able to burst either of these champions. Then here in the bot lane, as I mentioned, the Lee Sin in the support position. So Lee Sin against Ezreal and Gragas, not really liking his life too much. He's the one that is farming, right? It's Senna bot lane, so he will get bonked on the head quite a lot. His benefits are obviously his very strong kit, right? With his Q and W being very helpful here and then to avoid poke, get some CS that he might not should have been, and then also that he has energy, so he can use more his spells more freely. This will be really needed against this like pokish lane here. And obviously Senna sustain will also help a lot. So I don't think this is as bad as another melee support would have been here. And overall, T1, what issues could they run into? Obviously their comp is really scaling dependent. Yes, they have Lee Sin and the Jace, but even these champions really like one item or so, or two items here for the Jace. The rest of them all need to ramp up in the game, right? Senna famously for her swords, Diana also really likes 2-3 items, and Lulu is not really doing anything on her own, amplifying other champions that are more attack speed based, which are like 3 of them, right? Senna obviously not a famously known attack speed champion, but she will like the shields and the ultimate and so on. So yeah, T1 a bit greedy here with their comp. It's not that they're losing every lane, right? They have pressure or like push at least in 2, but should come the skirmishes. That's not really their territory, even though they have at least in. That's just the way it is. On the other side here, the comp of Live Sandbox, really good in earlier skirmishes. Yes, and also like ramping up into the mid game. Yes, they're falling off a bit afterwards, right? Set and the Ezreal are a bit competent in later stages, but the rest of them are not really all that strong on 3-4 items. So yeah, they have the early and mid game advantage, and then T1 goes from there. Obviously a huge advantage here for Live Sandbox. Their comp has at least 3 tanks, assuming effort goes AP Gragas. So they have an easy front line to work with. Yes, they run into a bit of an issue with the damage, because only the Ezreal is their consistent form of damage, and its own also effort as the only source of AP damage. But the issue is not really all that huge, because T1 is not really a tanky team. If the base levels and resistances come in, and Senna can actually heal these champions a bit more, then T1 suddenly gets extra health from Faker and Teddy with shields and heals, and these champions become tankier. Then it can be relevant. But till then, their base damage of these champions is still enough to kill these squishier T1 champions. So in terms of ease of execution, Live Sandbox obviously has the advantage here, but if we know T1, they're not really a team that rolls over in the early game. So unless Live Sandbox is able to snowball early, get Drakes on their side, I would recommend, right, with the bot lane pressure, it will be quite hard for them later on. And if T1 as usual gets the farm leads, it will also be hurtful, because these champions then come online faster. So overall, I like what both teams did here. I think both teams kinda picked to their strengths. Now we have to look at the execution and see how it works out. But that's it for game number 1. We see each other in the draft review of game number 2. Stay tuned for that. And if you liked the content so far, yeah, maybe like and subscribe to my channel. But till then,